Okay, so now we are going to dive into object-oriented programming in Dart. Well, I'll say the same thing again. You need to know the basics of object-oriented programming before you dive into this. I'm not going to explain you all the object-oriented programming concepts. I'm just going to explain you how it works in Dart. So let's get started. I'll erase this part, and I will erase this part. Now let's define a class. So I will define a class and I will call it as pet. Class pet, and here I will give some basic arguments like string, a name for my pet, and I will call it by default as Jimmy, and an age for my pet, int age, and the default age will be, for example, 12. All right, so now we can create multiple objects with from this class. We can create multiple pet objects. So how to do it? You can go inside this void main part and you can say pet. We will give the data types before the variables, right? Similarly, for a object, the data type is the class, so we need to say pet, which is the name of the class, and I will say p, name of my variable, and here I will say pet. So I'm creating a new pet object inside the variable p, and I will give a semicolon, and this new pet object will be created. I will create another pet object, pet p1. So this is p and p1, and here I will create a new pet object. All right, so now I have created two new pet objects. Now we can try and get the names, name of those two pets. Well, I'll say p.name, print p.name, semicolon, and print p.age, semicolon. Oh my god, semicolon. Similarly, I will say print p1.name, print p1.age. So I'm defining my classes. I'm printing the name and ages of my objects, and now I'll run it. Let's see what I'm getting. So p's name is Jimmy and his age is 12. p1's name is also Jimmy and his name is 12, because these are the default arguments. We can't change it. Whatever pet we create, how many objects we create, their name is going to be same and their age is going to be same. So what if I want to have separate names for my two pets? For example, if I want my pet p to have a separate name and a separate age, and pet p1 to have another separate name and a separate age. So to do that, I'll create another new function inside my class with the same name of my class. I'll call the function as pet, and inside it I will pass two arguments. I won't give any values to those variables now. I'll just define those variables and call those two variables inside my function. I'll say string of name. This function has two arguments. One is the string name, another one is the int age. Now I'll close it, and now I'll open a curly brace, and inside my body of my function, what I'll do is I'll say this dot name equals name. So what will happen is, this is the object I'm creating. So this can be p1, p, this will be this part will be replaced by p or p1. So what will happen is, any name we are passing into this, here inside we will be passing name and age. So any age we are passing, any name we are passing will be assigned as its name. So here I will say this dot age equals age. So you will understand when we run it. So we define these two. Now what we need to do is, I'll go to my pet p, the part where I define my pet, and here I will say the name. I need to define two variables because my function is getting two arguments, string name and int age. So I need to define them in the part where I'm creating a new object. So I'll say Timmy, and I'll close it, and I'll give a age for it. I'll say 10. 10 is the age for my Timmy, which is my first pet. And for the second pet, I will similarly define a name and a age. So I will give the name as Richard, and I will set the age as 12 tabs. All right, so now I defined the name and age for two of my pets, and now when I run it, so the name of my first pet is Timmy and its age is 10, and the name of my second pet is Richard and its age is 12. Well, what if there is something called as methods? I hope you already know what are methods. So to create a method inside this, Well, I'll create a method called sit. Pets obey our commands, right? So what if I'm asking my pet to sit? What will it do? I'll say void sit, and inside this body of this function I'll say print sits down. So whenever I command my pet to sit, it sits down. Alright, so I'll end it by a semicolon. Now I'll go ahead and call the sit function here. So I'll say p.sit. I'm asking my pet p to sit. So if I run it now, well, semicolon. Alright, so my pet sits down. What if I ask my pet p1 to sit? This method will work for any object I'm creating. I'm saying p1.sit. Oh, semicolon. And my p1 sits down too. So that's great. These are how methods work in Dart. Now, how to inherit a class into another one. For example, I'll just classify this class as pet. So what if I'm talking about a specific pet like cat or dog? How to inherit all these characteristics into the dog or cat? Well, we can say class dog extends pet. So my dog class is extending the pet class, and I'll open a curly brace, and here I'll say dog, because we need to define a name for my dog and class too. So we need to create a function with the same name as my class. So what I'll do is dog string name comma int age, and here I'll say super. So just in case you don't know, these two are the same line, so I'll just extend it a little bit. So here I'll say super, and inside super I'll say name comma age and a semicolon. So I'll just extend it a little bit more. Yeah, so what is happening right here? So I'm creating a new dog class and I'm extending the pet class inside it. So what will happen is this dog class will have all the characteristics of the pet class. This dog can sit without even, we didn't create a command called sit, we didn't create a method called sit, yet it will sit. And we need to assign its name and age. For that, what I'm doing is I'm saying string name int age, and then I'm saying super name and age. So what will happen is this part of the code will be copied right away, will be replicated right away into here. So this dog, whenever we create a new dog and give a name and age to it, it will be directly assigned to its name and age. Now let's create a new method inside this dog function. So I'll create a new method. So how can I create a new method inside this that only my dog class can access? Well, I'll say void speak. So how does a dog speak? It barks. So I'll say inside my function body I will say print woof woof. Well, that's how a dog speaks, right? And I'll end it by a semicolon. So that's it. I created a new method. So we create a new class that extends the pet class, and we assigned it a name and age by extending it from the pet class to, and then we created a new method for it specifically, which is the speak method. So now let's initialize a dog object. So what I'll say is I'll create a new object right here. I'll erase all this stuff. Yeah, I'll create a new object right here, and I will call it dog d1, and I will say dog of, and I will give it a name and age. I will call it Jim, and I'll give a age as 20 and a semicolon. And now this dog object can access all the functions and methods from both the pet class and the dog class. So let me give you an example. I'll say d1.sit. So this method is not inside the dog class, it is inside the pet class. So I'm saying d1.sit, and below that I'll say d1.speak, and I'll give a semicolon. Now I'll get it here and I will run it. Say sits down, woof woof. So my dog speaks and sits down. What if I do the same for my pet and p and p1? Will it work? So let's try. I'll say p.sit. I'll just try for one of them. I'll say p.sit. Sit already worked. Let's say speak works for p.speak. And what if I run it now? So yeah, it's showing us the method speak isn't defined for the class pet. So the class pet doesn't have the method speak inside it. It only has the method sit, and the class pet can't access the class dog. But however, the class dog can access the class pet. So the class dog can have all the functions and methods from the pet class. However, the pet class can't have the functions from the dog class. So this might look a little bit confusing for beginners. I would recommend you to run the same code in another .pad console in your computer or laptop. I think it also works in your cell phone too, so you can run it in your cell phone too. And if you feel like all these things are a little bit too much for you, well, you might be a beginner and you might not know the basics of programming. Well, I would recommend you to learn the basics of programming and then continue with the course. And well, if you know the basics of programming and still don't understand how Dart works or the syntax of Dart, well, don't worry about it. As we progress towards the course, you will learn, we'll be coding more on Dart programming language only. So you'll be learning more and more about Dart. So as you code more in Dart, you will get more used to it. So don't worry about it. And with that, the basics of Dart is completely covered. And if you found this video useful, please leave a like. If you are having any doubts or questions, leave them in the comment section. I will definitely reply them. And I'm releasing new videos every week, so don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.